All right, everyone, welcome to Pensive Politics with Christian Watson. I am your host, Mr. Watson, as I'm so affectionately called. And today with me, I have someone that I've been a fan of for a very long time, Mason Musso, who is the co-singer, right, of Metro Station,
Yeah,
lead singer of
yeah.
Metro Station, which
I
was
do the hooks and Trace does the verses. So,
oh yes, him and Trey Cyrus, which was a wonderful group. If you guys are not familiar with it, it's a wonderful singing group. I've been a fan of them since I was in 7 or 8. And the reason I have Mason on here is because not only is I think he's a great singer, great musician, I've also realized in doing my research that he's also active in conservative circles as well, which was quite intriguing to me. So, Mason, why don't you give yourself a little bit of an introduction and tell us what you do? And for people who don't know, they should know if they have any
yep.
good taste, but people don't know, and then we'll go into the interview.
So yeah, I grew up around music. I mean, my parents were into, singing and theater. I grew up in Dallas, Texas. My little brothers got into acting first. I always loved music. I started playing music very young age, got involved with my local church, which was a giant Texas mega church with a skate park and like an arcade and all kinds, it's huge, thousands of people attending every Sunday. But that's where I basically learned how to play music and sing, playing in the youth worship band. From there, my family moved out to California because my brothers started booking more auditions for TV shows and whatnot. And once I got out to California, started the band Metro Station, and that's where my music career kind of took off. So that's a little bit about me. I definitely have conservative friends, and I have liberal friends, and I have Democrat friends. I got all kinds of different people in all circles, in all circles.
Of course. Now, would it be fair to say that you've been active in Hollywood? I mean, that'd be fair to say.
Yeah, politically, no.
Politically, no, but
Politically, no. I mean,
in terms of your career,
yes, 100%. I mean, that's where the band started. That's where my little brother Mitchell, got his big break. And my little brother Mark did some stuff too. He was in the movie 21 Grams. He was in. They both were in actually Secondhand Lions with Haley Joel Osment. So they've been working acting from a very, very young age.
Yeah, he was in Hannah Montana too, right?
Yep.
I remember him. So
and Pair of Kings,
yeah.
And he did Disney movies, and he worked, and still does voiceover stuff for I think Phineas and Ferb. So the mouse has been very kind to our family.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, so what exactly attracted you to get involved in the political conversation? Because a lot of people in Hollywood are either decidedly left-wing and they're very outspoken about it, or they have more conservative leanings and they don't want to say anything about it out of fear of retribution. What has been your experience in that regard?
I think just that. That's very dangerous, that people feel like they can't voice their opinion, especially, here. We can all disagree. We can vote. Some people are going to win. Some people are going to lose. That's just what's going to happen. But, again, to destroy someone's lives over, your political leaning is just it's bad news. But as I said, I have friends in all kinds of different circles. I like to listen to everybody, and I like to know what's going on. And I know a lot of people who have opinions and don't do any research. Nobody reads anymore. Nobody.
Unfortunately.
No, and not that I read a ton, but I try to figure out what's going on and try to, the only class I ever did well at in school was history. So I've always loved history. And, that's really important, I think. And, especially with the internet, everyone has, they can blast out their opinion of, whatever they want. And sadly, I think, before the internet, it was all kind of, you had your news or whatever, but it was still, oh, my friends are telling me this, it's kind of hearsay, you're getting all these, rumors and everything like that of what's actually going on. And it's still the same because the internet is just everyone's opinion going off and nobody really knows what's going on, so it's good, try to be informed, as best as you can, read some books, I don't know.
Absolutely. I think, Generation Z, which is the generation that grew up with Metro primarily, and the generation that was the biggest fans of Metro, we have the shortest attention spans of any other previous generation. We have some of the highest depression rates, some of the highest rates of all kind of mental illnesses. And there are people who are in the school of thought that it all flows together from the same source, which is the lack of social interaction real life social interaction, right? That stems from the advent of social media. And now, of course, there are people that think that social interaction, genuine social interaction can take place on places like Snapchat, Facebook, and things of that sort. So there's a sort of generational definition gap, whereas the older folks are like, you know what? When I was growing up, social interaction was me going out and talking to someone face to face. People in my generation, because I'm 21, people in my generation are like, no, it's Snapchat, it's Facebook, it's things of that sort. So how have you observed that trend develop over the years? Because Metro came out of it became famous, I think, in the MySpace age, when social media was very much developing still. It was still becoming a force of its own. And now, of course, it's everywhere and it's ubiquitous in its influence.
Yeah, I think the depression and anxiety thing is, real. It probably has a lot to do with the internet because language and interacting with someone is not just words. It's verbal cues, it's hand gestures, it's your tone, it's your, even I think, being sarcastic. I mean, you can say something and mean the complete opposite, at the same time, which is very interesting if you really think about it. It's fascinating. But I don't think you get that with, just words. And I think books, I guess you could say the same for books, and that's why, especially, anyone can interpret, books in a different way. But going back to your point of like anxiety and everything, I think it is, you have to be around, dealing with that actual human interaction is very different than just tweeting or chatting on on the internet. And I think that definitely has a lot to do with the attention span and people feeling I mean, I know a lot of friends who have extreme anxiety, and I think that absolutely has a lot to do with it, is the internet. I mean, it's amazing, it's great, but it definitely is gonna, I mean, we are, like you said, we are witnessing the first generation who kind of grew up with it. I didn't. I remember my mom having a pager, and I was able to hit her up like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm 32, so I mean, by 10 there was the internet, but I guess 9, 10, we had a computer in the home where I was like, playing video games or whatever on. So yeah, this generation is growing. It's the first ones to kind of like grow up with, being online, and we're gonna see, the side effects of that for sure.
Absolutely. Because right now we have a world that is reconsidering what it means to be human. There's the transhumanist movement that is trying to change the very definition of humanity by removing our limitations through technology, allowing us to transcend our imperfections. And, you've worked with a society with people that have had the same definition of what it meant to be human. Well, relatively same. I mean, slavery used to exist, so not entirely the same, but relatively the same definition of what it meant to be human for a very, very long time. And now in the 21st century, we're completely retreating from that. And that's, in my opinion, is probably going to cause the most permanent effect on how we interact with each other, right? But my question to you is, because I think that music, right, is a sort of creative expression of the soul, has the ability to allow others to see your thoughts, but also unify others, without the divisions of common life. Because Metro, I'm sure, has a lot of different fans from a lot of different areas of life. And I'm sure not all of them agree politically or whatever, but they can all be united at least in their love for the product you guys create. So how have you seen music in your own life unify people and unite people?
I think it can. I think music's a great equalizer.
Mhm.
But musicians are now very, well, they always kind of have been, I guess. I mean, it's okay, to be, you can be political, it's great. But, I always thought I mean, growing up, I was like, it was totally fine to wear, Che Guevara on your t-shirt. And that, you know what I'm
Jesus.
saying?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
totally fine in the, it's in this, and the music industry. And that dude was killing gay people. I mean, like,
Yes,
that's what
exactly.
you know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
it's just a weird thing.
Yep.
There's always kind of been this kind of like left-leaning thing, I think, with music, except with country. You don't see
Yeah.
that with country. Very different,
Oh,
so I don't know. I think, feel free to, voice your politics, but sadly, I think, a lot of musicians kind of like, I don't know, kind of say, here's the line. And I definitely don't try to do that. I want to listen to every side. I do have my opinions, but that's okay. It's
Yes.
okay to disagree. That's what I feel like so many, a lot of people right now, it's like, if you don't agree with me on all these points, we can't be friends. It's like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's
not how you
totally
maintain a
insane.
society. That's not how you maintain a society.
That's insane,
Right.
and going to your transhumanism thing. Are we even human anymore? Are we, you know what I'm saying? Are we? I mean, this, I know like Elon Musk is trying to like, put it, something in people's heads. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if I want to be a part of that, but we are already, I mean, this is your life. I mean, you want to punish it. You want to like, if your kid's acting up or something like that, you can't go outside. That's not a punishment. They don't care about that. They don't care about going outside. This is where their life is, or video games, I guess. That's where the real world is, right? Yeah. To a kid is his video game realm. This is all digital. This isn't, so I don't know. Are we not, are we already kind of in this, transhumanism, postmodern world? People like, Jean Baudrillard would say we are,
Oh, definitely.
And, we already are. So,
yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I think there is, that's why I think the ground is kind of shaking. The pillars of civilization are kind of quaking. People do feel like this anxiety. It's because, people want the real, as close as they can get to it. But, yeah, that transhumanism thing, I think, is a lot of people aren't really talking about, because it sounds weird. It sounds like, oh, trans, that's kind of crazy. But a lot of people are thinking about it. A lot of people. Yeah. I mean, Elon Musk is obviously, and so it's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, and the transhumanism thing, a lot of people either don't think about it because they're not familiar with the term, or they have some idea of what it means, but think it's some sort of futuristic science fiction topic that doesn't affect their life. And this is how things happen. This is how any kind of change, bad or good, happens in society, when people simply sit down and bury their heads in the sand and say, this won't affect me. This sort of hyper focused on the self. And look, there's nothing wrong with be focused on the self. I'm an individualist through and through, but we all exist in a world that has things happening in it that have nothing to do per se with us, but in another sense have almost everything to do with our lives, right? Things that go outside of our experience that we may not necessarily be in control over, but directly impact our experience. And this is the sort of philosophical problem that a lot of people don't want to grapple with. And I find that really concerning. And speaking of musicians, by the way, who are political, at least their being involved in politics, at least speaking out, shows that they do grapple with some of these things, even if they do so in a way that I don't agree with. For example, one of my favorite musicians, Springsteen, Well, Springsteen and I probably don't agree very much on politics whatsoever. But I mean, the dude's voice, contrary to popular opinion, is awesome in my opinion. I love the gravelly blue collar voice. I think it's awesome. It's
I love Springsteen.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. But he grapples with issues in a way differently than I do. But at least he grapples with them. At least he's not sitting down and just saying, "Well, it has nothing to do with me." That's a good thing. I want to see more people voicing their opinions, as long as those opinions are informed and based in some kind of reality. And I think that musicians who do politics do that in some instances, and sometimes they do so to a bad effect, like Neil Young. I think Neil Young's, what he did with Spotify was, I mean, he's grappling with something, but it's not a good thing per se, right? He was effectively trying to censor Joe Rogan on the basis of a false perception of Joe Rogan, right? Because Joe Rogan has had a lot of people on his show, mainstream experts like Sanjay Gupta, and experts that kind of buck the narrative like Dr. Malone and McCulloch. And Rogan just casts his entire show as a platform for a complete falsehood, which is just not true. So, we want people to grapple with reality, but we want them to do so in a manner that respects it as well. And I think a lot of these musicians butcher reality in their attempt to grapple with it. I mean, I'm not trying to go on too long here, but you go to Barbara Streisand's her Twitter page. It's entirely disparaging people who may have right-leaning views. You go Michael McDonald, one of my favorite musicians, who came out of the 80s, great, beautiful voice, Blue-Eyed Soul, the Doobie Brothers, awesome stuff. You go to his Facebook page, it's all disparaging right-leaning people. So whereas music has this sort of unifying effect, when the musicians themselves go against that, I think they're kind of sullying the impact their product could have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's a problem. And as a musician, how do you suggest people, because there's a conversation about separating the art from the artist, right? I'm not sure how you feel about that.
Yeah.
But how do you, sorry. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, wasn't it Michael Jordan who was like, they were asking him, why are, it was something about Republicans or whatever. And he was like, Republicans buy sneakers too.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, why, okay, have your opinions and everything, but like, I think that's the problem with like alienating, all right wingers or all left wingers or all this people or all that people. It's like, that's not how the world works. It's not like that. I agree. I'm an individual like yourself. And I think, I don't think you can group people by their, whatever it is. You can't just say all this group of people thinks this certain way. People aren't like that, So I think, blaming, if someone, like you're saying, Streisand or whatever, they're saying, all right-leaning people are, think this way, or, Neil Young, we're going to, I'm going to take off my music because of this. It's like, I don't know. I think you have to listen to, you have to listen to everybody. Obviously, some people with, disgusting views we don't listen to, and,
Right.
But I think that's one of the big problems, people are finding out with like, censorship is, this goes to like what Jordan Peterson, says, who gets to decide what hate speech is? It's like the last person on earth you'd want to decide, because I mean, the line keeps being moved, where I feel like a couple years ago, we all kind of agreed, what stuff, wasn't really allowed in the public sphere. But now it just keeps getting moved and moved. And it's like, you're protesting and angry at a person for bringing on people with different opinions about medicine,
Right.
About medicine. Huh? Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like, and science is not this just, it's very frightening and funny because it reminds me of that South Park episode where it's like, it's the two sciences that are like, science has, gotten past religion, but now it's like, we're the real science. And they start, these two different science religious factions start fighting each other. It's a hilarious episode, but, it's just, science is, I'm not an expert, but I would imagine it's like, we're going to keep testing our theory because we could be wrong.
Right.
We're always going to have that option open because yes, things, the world changes, things we thought were true 10 years ago are not true today.
Yeah.
But this idea of you cannot question the science, that's scary, man. That's really scary, especially from someone just like Joe Rogan. It's like, why, I don't know. It's pretty freaky.
Science is a continuous method of inquiry.
Totally.
That is an attempt to refine what we already accept is true about the world. And the moment science becomes not a method of inquiry, but a doctrine, a dogma, is the moment that we cannot see the world for what it truly is. And if we cannot see the world for what it truly is, it follows that someone can paint the world in their own light. And if you go against them, you're going against what they term as the truth. And therefore, you're being irrational and you're being ridiculous, and they can shut you down on that basis. This is the entire foundation of medical misinformation criteria that is sweeping across social media. It's not that they actually care about what's happening in reality, is that they care about their own version of reality, which they term as the truth. And I think Boldreau would be definitely call this a simulacrum. Definitely. I don't quite cast things in terms like he does, but I think that he would definitely call it a simulacrum, a sort of version of the truth that is erected by the systems of knowledge in our society, not the actual truth. And if you go against that, they shut you down. So this is why it's important to have freedom of expression. This is why it's important to have institutions that are geared towards objective reality, objective knowledge. This is why it's important to have quote unquote wrong thinkers. This is precisely why. But unfortunately, that's being shied away in society. And I think that's a very concerning thing. But I want to move the conversation back towards Metro, because I have personally seen music in my own life drastically shift and change in terms of what most people like to listen to. So in 2007, when I was younger, you could turn on the radio, you would hear Katy Perry, you'd hear Pink, you'd hear Shake It from Metro, you'd hear things like that. 07, 08. I forgot which year Shake It came out. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I forgot.
It would have been, popular on the radio would have been like 09, 10.
Okay, 09. Okay,
like pop, but the record came out like, I think 07.
Okay. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. And so,
08.
yeah. And so back then, that kind of music was very much incredibly popular. These days, it's all trap and rap and stuff like that. So how do you account for this shift in what a lot of people like to listen to? Because if you look at the number one genre today, it's rap, all kinds of rap, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, all kinds of stuff like that. And I'm just not sure that reflects a deterioration in tastes amongst my generation, or maybe a maturing in taste. I don't know, because I think the sort of teen pop rock of the 2007, the late 2000s, I think it had a fine, should I say a fine message? I mean, I think that it had a fine message, a message that everyone in a certain area of their life can relate to, like 17 Forever from Metro. A lot of people who are in their adolescence can definitely relate to that feeling of courtship, of teenage bliss, and things of that sort. And that's not a bad thing, but when you move the conversation to stealing cars, messing people up, shooting people, I'm avoiding some of the more colorful terms these rappers use. You wonder, is this a deterioration of taste? Like, what has changed? What's your opinion?
The violence thing is very interesting. I don't know. It's definitely and there's definitely been elements of violence and stuff in in I would say like punk. And metal and and hardcore music for sure. And I don't know, the violence thing, sex stuff is always going to be there because that's music is that, music has that. I mean, you know what I mean? It makes people want to dance, it makes people want to vibe.
I didn't realize that what Shake It was about until I actually read the lyrics. I didn't realize. I'm like, what is
there was a lot of people did it, and it is just about dancing, but at the same time, it's like, it's just, it can be taken how you want it, but people like to love when music's on.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But yeah, the violence thing is I am not a big fan of like violence in music. But I think we're in a world right now where I think people are angry. I think people are angry and people want to get their aggression out. And I think especially in my kind of scene, that's why, punk is back in a big way. Because punk has always kind of had this like anti-authoritarian leaning to it. Which is cool. I mean, I love, I mean, I kind of grew up in that scene and that kind of music. I mean, we were very, very much influenced by a lot of punk stuff. Yeah. So, but yeah, the violence thing, I don't know why it's so popular. And whereas if someone was to like tweet that out, they'd probably get their Twitter,
exactly
just suspended,
If you tweeted out half these rap lyrics, you probably would definitely get your Twitter suspended.
For sure.
No, really, it's just the shift between teen pop rock, which I think is what you could classify Metro as, right? To more trap rap is shocking to me. I just don't understand it. I have no idea what happened. Because, rap's been around since the early 90s. Snoop Dogg.
And it was violent.
It was very, very.
So I think, and some of the stuff, I mean, it sounds good. And you're just like, I've always, I was way more, even being on the West Coast, I was way more into I loved Biggie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, really?
I liked Pac as well, but, even like when Eminem was out, I mean, everybody was listening to Eminem.
Yeah.
And some of his stuff is, Stan and stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the most violence. Oh my Lord, that would not get, which is weird because that would not probably get on the radio today, but at the same time, I feel like we have gotten more, lyric wise, we have gotten more violent. People are angry. It's gonna get, I hope it doesn't get worse, but I have a feeling like things might probably, get worse, like we're seeing.
Yeah. Do you see, and this will be one of the last questions because I know we got to go soon, but do you see a position for Metro in the current music market going forward? Do you see a potential for it to continue to grow and make music? Because I know it came back not too long ago. So do you see a position for it?
Yeah, I think we'll probably release some stuff, I don't know if this year, but next year. So yeah, there's definitely, some stuff me and Trace could do. And I think that will happen. I think there's definitely, an opportunity right now within music too. That kind of style is back. I think it's cyclical. I think a lot of, I think people who have this kind of view of like linear time and we're always progressing. I don't really see life or the world that way. I think right now with everything happening is a perfect example, I think things are cyclical, just like, the sun rises and the sun sets and the sunrise and seasons. I think, that's how the world works. Things come back around different, but styles and stuff continually come back and are built upon and have different, levels to them, with everything.
Yeah.
So I don't have this kind of view of like linear anything where like, oh, it's getting different or it's changing or whatever.
Interesting.
I think it always kind of changes. It's always kind of cyclical. So that's how I kind of see music. So, for me, I'm like sitting here going, lately I've been talking to my friends about it. I'm like, okay, I see punk coming back, and I'm like doing my research, like in a history of music. And I'm like, okay, this is more so from, my kind of, the emo world or whatever, but, I kind of see punk coming back. So, what comes after that is like, post-punk, we see a lot of post-punk coming back. And I think it kind of will transition to that is even more kind of goth, even more, things like The Cure. I think a lot of, and guitars are back in a big way, which is interesting for pop music, especially. I think a lot for a long time, it was cheaper to go, or it made more sense to go into a Guitar Center and you have $600. Well, you're not going to buy one guitar. You're going to buy, Pro Tools, and you're going to get all the samples. That's you can do way more with that than just a guitar. But I think guitars are coming back in a big way because guitars are cool. It's cool.
Yeah, I grew up, again, going back to my younger days. I'm still young, but my younger days used to All American Rejects, Metro. all those people were very
Great guys.
Yeah. Oh, I was listening to it ends tonight the other day. Such a great song, I swear. All American Rejects is awesome. The Plain White Tees, all of them. David Archuleta, Jesse McCartney. Those were the popular guys of the mid to late 2000s. And it's just so interesting to see how the music interests shift. And I hope you're right. I hope it is like a cycle and that it will go back to that. Maybe it's nostalgia, but I think a lot of those songs had a lot of meaning to them. I think they had a lot of meaning to them. Seriously. I mean, Plain White Tees with Hey There Delilah and Our Time Now, you know, both of those two songs have distinct themes, but both of those themes are meaningful. With Hey There Delilah, it's about the age-old pursuit of romance and desire. And then with It's Our Time Now, the sort of victory chants of overcoming and having your moment to succeed. I mean, both of those songs can really inspire something in us as human beings. And good music is that which, in my opinion, which really inspires us to become better, more active people. That's my personal opinion. So what do you think about that? And we'll end in a second here, because I know you got to go.
I think you're absolutely right. I think as you know, kind of going back to the, you know, transhumanism thing, I think, you know, as, you know, everything kind of becomes more, you know, I don't want to say fake, but, you know, you know, going into the metaverse and all this talk about, you know, everything else, people want meaning, and people are going to try, you know, John Vervaeke, who's super, he's got a great YouTube, and he talks to people like Jordan Peterson and Jonathan Pageau and Paul Vanderklay, people I really like. And he talks about, you know, this meaning crisis that the world is facing. And I think he's absolutely right. And I think that kind of plays into, you know, what you were saying about those songs.
Absolutely. Well, Mason, look, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. I've been a big fan for a very long time, and it's really an honor to talk to you. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Christian. I really appreciate it. Let's do it again soon.
All right. And everyone, please stay pensive. Bye-bye.